You got 1 minute to showtime.
Look, I just
Your mama room. All right, y'all ready? My bad, we up.
Yep. Hold on 1 second. Trying to go live on our Facebook page or something. All right, I think we got it here. For some reason it's not going on there.
You trying to get to the Facebook?
Yeah, I'm gonna remove it and add it back in. This. All right, everybody, thank you so much. We're in there. We're live. Thank you so much, everybody, for waiting on us. We are, it's From Protest to the Polls, episode 4. And it's been a crazy 3 weeks. And we praise God for everything that we've experienced so far. If you're watching us from Facebook, watching us on YouTube, wherever you're watching us from, welcome to From Protest to the Polls. I'm happy that everybody's here again. This is Pastor Jonathan Louder of the Mount Zion Church in Bolingbrook, Georgia, aka Pastor J. I'm so glad that my brothers and sisters are in the studio with me. Let me go ahead and let you know that Fenika Miller and Paul Little will be joining us shortly. They told us to roll on, which we're gonna do, and we're gonna do it because we are well able. And so tonight, as many of you have seen on Facebook, we are going to be discussing about strategy. And I'm going to go ahead and I know you met the panel prior to, but I got to do this because some people want an introduction and don't need one. Others need an introduction but don't want one. And all of these are the latter. And you've met them by now. They family. I'm going to introduce them again. We're going to introduce the ladies first, because Sheknita is the one. Sheknita Davis, powerful minister, prophetess, community organizer, worker. She has been giving us the okie doke, bam, bam every week. And I appreciate her so much. Sheknita Davis, say what's up to the people.
Good evening, everyone. Just glad to be here. As they say, just glad to be in the number one more time.
Hallelujah. I told you she'll go to church anytime. Y'all probably tell you. Next up, we're going to go down to South Georgia. He's the mayor of Baconton. Should be the prince of Albany. But he is my brother. He's my friend. Preacher par excellent, community organized, community leader. Y'all give it for my brother, Pastor Craig E. Moore. Say what's up to the people, man.
Good evening, everybody. Glad to be here one more time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Dublin, Georgia, y'all watch out. He on his way in a couple of weeks. He's going to shut it down. Next up, he is the urban CEO. He is my friend. He is my brother. He is the only person ever at my church to, when a preacher is preaching, to have the bracelet break in the pulpit because he was preaching some. He thought I forgot about that. Y'all give it up for my friend, brother, pastor of the Kingdom Life Church, and he is the mayor of the East Side. East Macon, that is. Hey, so y'all give it up, Pastor Dominique Johnson. Say what's up, man.
Hey y'all, how y'all doing tonight? Glad to be here. Hopefully we can share some information that encourage you, educate you, and inspire you. But blame Tolan Morgan for the broke bracelet. Blame Tolan Morgan for the broke bracelet.
I look, he that same night he did say he owed you one. That was the highlight, man. Thank you so much, man. And last but not least, y'all give it up for my sister. She is the community organizer. She educates us, keeps us on our toes when it comes to policy, that gives us information we need about understanding why we're here, what we should be doing when it comes to our approach to not just voting, but our approach to how we live as a people and work together. Y'all give it up for the community organizer extraordinaire, Fenika Miller, aka Meek. Y'all give it up for her.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank y'all for having me back.
Hey, you know it. Fenika Miller is the reason I was not into, I can say this, then we'll jump into the thing. I was not into community organizations and community being involved in the community the way I should be, even from a family that was involved in the community. I wasn't per se until it was one day we ran into each other on my way to the Officer Fellowship almost 10 years ago. And she was like, "You're not here by accident. You got some work to do." And so I want to appreciate you so much, Fenika, publicly for keeping me on my toes and making sure that I do more than just talk to people. I make an impact. So I appreciate you so much, man. Now, hey, everybody, tonight we are going to be, again, Pastor Paul Lewis is joining us shortly. When he gets in, he's going to come in like a car with two black guys. He'll come in like the bum rush. So, but he knows us. Go ahead. Tonight we're going to be focused on strategy. We have spent, like I said earlier, we have spent the week just talking about, just overall what is our aim? Why do we need to do this? Also, we spent weeks talking about, previous weeks talking about where we are, what we do next. And then last week, we really got educated on so many things, civic engagement, public policy reform. We talked about culture, the dynamic between the church as well as the community. And then we also continued this theme about making sure we are not just having moments, we're making this a momentum, mobilizing this. And so I want to start off again with Pastor Craig Moore. So many things are going on, Pastor Moore, uh, and the community and the world. I'm telling you, if you just looked at the news today, from the talks of how COVID-19 is on the ramp, spiking up all over, from it shouldn't even be an argument, but it is argument when it comes to, the Confederate flag. We have a president who wants to attack a man who did not ask for attention, but the attention fell on him in Bubba Wallace in NASCAR, and he attacks who happens to be the only black driver in NASCAR. And let's be clear. As much as it's not taught, African Americans watch NASCAR. We do watch. We may not watch it like we watch basketball or football and things like that, but we do watch things like this because, again, we are a people who thrives on thrills at times. But to attack this man is crazy. But I really wanted to open with this because before we get into strategy, let's talk about how sometimes we have allowed distractions to de-strategize us. We've allowed distractions of what we should be focused on the narrative, the things that are going on that's important, things that matter to us as a people. Help us to understand why we need to dismiss distraction, not get distractions by loopholes and by, things that the president may say or any politician or anybody even within our own people of what they may say in regards to, so that we don't lose focus on what we should be doing. Talk about that, sir.
Well, just to kind of start it off tonight, oftentimes we are a schizophrenic people in nature when it comes to the causes that we care about. Because there, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we hear you now.
Okay, if we're not careful, we'll run the risk of allowing the wide spectrum of worthy causes, worthy fights, all of the different avenues that we could pursue. If we're not careful, we'll allow that to cause us to have civic schizophrenia, right? Where we're listening to so many different needs, so many different voices. And we as a people, we see, and sometimes in sociology, we call this splintering, when one segment or one group, one population has inner turmoil, right? So, for example, we're talking about Black Lives Matter. We've been saying that now for several years, and it came to a pinnacle, obviously, again with George Floyd, and here it is, the hot topic of the day. However, since in the last, month and a half, since we've been talking Black Lives Matter, since we've been saying that again, now there seems to be even small sects within the larger population who's now trying to decide where they fit in the Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter argument. There are some people who feel like, there are some people of color who feel like they need to say all lives matter, which then makes them anti-Black Lives Matter, right? So now you have this splintering, and that's just one example. There's another splinter because of the wording of the Black Lives Matter movement. There are some who are now saying, I support the phrase or the slogan, but when you read the platform, they feel like they are not promoting a nuclear family that promotes a father in the home. And that could be a misinterpretation of the platform. But nonetheless, there are those who are dissenting because they believe that their view is right. And so to bring that all together, I believe that the way we defeat or avoid distractions, and this is going to sound so elementary, but we've got to put our plan in writing, and then you've got to spend time before you can even move on it. You've got to educate. You've got to educate on what the plan is. The plan has got to be identified, and it's, again, we said it last week, it's got to be a worthy cause. It's got to be a popular cause, all of those things. And you're never going to be able to prevent, dissent, right? As long as you're dealing with human beings.
Right.
However, when we are realistic about the goal, realistic about the movement, we put it in writing, we educate it, then that lessens the chance, of us, failing before we even start because of distractions. And distractions come when either there's a lack of focus, there's a lack of understanding, right? And so we want to do our level best to minimize that by saying, here's what we're going after. We start here first because we can, there's low hanging fruit, right? We start here first because this is what we can universally agree on, right? You know, and then I believe that the putting it in writing, having your strategic, your think tanks or your focus groups, getting that feedback, getting that buy-in, but at the end of the day, it's got to be strategically in writing, planned, and then communicated / educated. And I'll stop right there because the other panelists can kind of help me tighten that up.
That's so amazing you say that everything, if it's going to be successful, has to start with a plan.
Mhm.
It's been said for those who do not plan, if you don't uh, plan to succeed, basically, a failure to plan is plan.
Failure to plan. There you go.
Yeah, failure to plan is plan to fail. And I think we have to, like we're doing here, impart, impact, help somebody, as Nick says, to see these are areas I need to, or just go out there and jump on a limb, uh, and just jump out there. Let me first have some strategy, you know. Um, Nick, help us, Nick, right here, especially when it comes to, since we're talking about having the plan, what should the strategy be, Pastor Johnson, when it comes to uh, the culture as well as the connection between church and community, the relationship between church and community during this time, addressing these issues from that standpoint, so people can understand, like, hey, what are we doing? What help us understand? Because the only people that I feel people today are really wanting to listen to are people they trust, but also the pastors. They're listening to the pastors, not just any pastor, pastors who have a heart for the community and are not opportunists when it comes. That might get me in trouble with some people when it
Yeah.
comes. I mean, so help us.
So I think first things first, if it's going to be led, y'all know my thesis is the church as a catalyst for community transformation through leadership development. So, which is basically in leadership development, basically for me is just making disciples that make a difference, right? And so when I look at that, first of all, I had to get clear. I had to get clear on the what. So first of all, I had to understand when I get a clear on the what, which is to make disciples that are going to transform places, then I must realize that number one, there's chaos, right? So when there's chaos, I must go from chaos to cosmos, which is an ordered cosmos. So when God did that, the first thing he did was brought revelation and clarity. So I'm going to use biblical language and make it very practical so you can see how God orders. So he did that. And then the other thing he did was start separating. So he got systems, right? So I get clear on what is the what is the thing I want to do, right? So let me just give you 4 or 5 things, and we can order them later on. So I'm gonna get clear on the what. I'm gonna first of all, what a lot of people don't do, I think they do it because of their zeal and not thought it through. They don't count the cost. So I'm gonna get clear on the what. I'm gonna count the cost of what it really gonna cost for me to have this movement and this organization and this strategy. How much physical, mental, spiritual energy is this going to cost not only me, for all of us? Where's my family in that? I know I'm going the long route, but I want to show you this because this is what happens when you talk about the movement. So a lot of times we talk about, so parenthetically, let me put this in. We talk about King, we talk about Abernathy, we talk about Andrew Young, but we rarely talk about what the women had to go through that stood by them. So you got to think about this at the same time. What's this going to cost us, period? I'm getting in the weeds a little bit, but I want you to really think, because this is why people kind of start out and can quit. So get clear. Then I got to develop a core team. Who's going to be my core team? Who is it? And then what I need to do sometime, I need to staff my weaknesses, which means I don't need all visionaries like myself. I need somebody. So what I need is a strategist My bad, I need a visionary, a strategist, and watch this. I also need a tactician. Your tactician is going to be even more in the weeds than these are real nuts and bolts. Your visionary sees the big picture. I'm a mix. I have a little vision. I'm very more of a visionary, but I have a strategy. I have outside strategies as well, right? And so what happens? They give me the plan to get there, but your tactician will be the one who gonna make sure the paperwork right, who gonna make the phone call. You need all that. And what's gonna happen is, as Craig said with the descent, you're gonna kind of tick each other off. Because the strategy gonna tell the visionary, you didn't think about that. No, I just see the big picture. Then the tactician. So right. So I had to develop my core team, my systems again. But here's the thing that we always start off. And this we got to realize: we need to analyze the assets that we have. A lot of times we start off from a deficit. What we ain't got, what we don't got. So that's defining the problem. But what I have to do is, well, what do we do have? When you look at it theologically and going to practically, God always asks, what is it that you have in your hand? So we need to go see who the candle lady is in the street, who cooked the meals on Sunday, who does that, who's known as that. Also, what pastors are going to have to do, and this is kind of goes back to episode 2 that we had when we talked about being able to work across the line. You're going to have a convener. You're going to have the power of convening, and sometimes you're going to have to get people at the table from different walks of life, different socioeconomic, because there are some allies who may have to be at that table. And so and notice this all up front before we even get to the plan that Craig is talking about walking down. And this is the stuff that people overlook, you know. I saw a dude say this one time. They were starting a little group, and I'm not mad at it. I get the zeal. Oh, there's going to be a bigger movement in the NAACP. Really? Than the Niagara movement that started in like 1905? Like, you just going to come along, and what happens is we have a sense sometimes to disdain those movements because we don't know their history. Now, can they get brushed up some? Can they get? Yes. But that comes through, what do we already have? I'll say this, and I'll let the two ladies speak. When we look at our assets, we literally got to look at what is already going on. I mentioned this in one thing before. Survey the land. Who's already doing what? Is it effective or is it not? Maybe it just need me to bring more energy to it. I don't have to go through the whole thing of doing a 501c3 call. You know what I'm saying? All that is, I can just join this organization is there. Now I know that people might say, well, it's easy for you to say you started your church from your living room and the urban CEO before it, but it cost me something too. Let me say that. It cost me something, but and I think what the church has a unique standpoint, I'm speaking from the church, is because it is truly a call of God and a kingdom thing. And so I would also ask churches to look and see if you need to create a separate CDC to also do your mission. Because here's the truth of the matter. There are people who may not get a kingdom life, but they're given to the urban CEO, and it's the same mission, just under a different name.
I love it.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was the beginning of it, you know. So I think you wrote it down, like you said, you know, get clear on the what, get very clear. Get very clear on the what is it that we're trying to do.
Yep.
Count the cost. It's a man does not go to war without first counting the cost.
That's right.
Right? Develop your core team. Who are the 3 to 4, 5 people who's gonna be in there with you? Y'all can talk, y'all can have definite, true, real conversation. And watch this, sometimes for a kingdom movement, yes, you want inside the church, but because we're kingdom minded, Sheknita and I, we part of some core power, and we got other people. We started an urban CEO think tank, right? If these people don't go to my church, but we found something as a core, and we go around it. We've established the objective and the four things that we're gonna be dealing with. You see what I'm saying? And then develop a system. But more than anything, I want to renew our mind, our paradigm again, to seeing what is it that we do have in our community. Let's not always talk about, oh, it's trash over here. What do we have to offer? We call that, it's ABCD, something that I don't know if y'all know about it. Y'all may do. Y'all, I don't want to say it like talk over people's head. I know Sheknita knows knows about it. Fenika made too. Is ABCD, asset-based community development, where you go in and see what assets do the community already have, and you build from there.
That's amazing you talk about that, Nick, because a lot of times, and I've learned this in pastoring what some would consider a traditional church, that sometimes we miss the jewels inside because we're always looking outside. We miss out. We
Yeah,
miss
Jay,
out.
let me say this real quick, Jay. You're right, because I could look out and, of course, I could look at a Sheknita or Fenika and be like, dog, if I had, okay, just still partner when they making help. And then at the end of the day, like you say, who's in here who I may be called to develop the next person.
There you go.
See, God did me like that one time. He said, well, if you're called to equip and develop leaders, get to equipping and developing. Right here. See the hidden gems in. And the people, whatever I want, I either pray it in or I just say, hey, I know you're not a member, but I got this going on. But that's when you create another vehicle too, where you can use those people. Right? So, and I shouldn't say you, but you get what I'm saying, team up, partner with those people.
And
Right.
see, and what we got to understand is we always talk about sheep beget sheep. That's the terminology we use in church as pastors, trying to get people to understand. It's not a pastor who grows the church, it's the sheep who grow the church. It's the same way in the community. Leaders birth leaders. Um, it's what's kind of funny, and everybody who knows me knows basketball is my second favorite sport. But for years, everybody wanted to know who was going to be the next Michael Jordan. That's what everybody was saying. Who's going to be the next Michael? Who's going to be the next Michael? Who's going to be the next Michael Jordan? And they never looked at Michael Jordan's kids. Think about that. He has two sons, and they never looked at his kids. One son named Jeffrey, other one named Marcus. People never looked at his kids. But when they found out that his kids were going to a certain school, they acted like, oh, you don't have your daddy's skills. And it wasn't that they didn't have their daddy's skills, but that so many people were looking past them as if they couldn't do what their dad could do. But when they was on the court with their daddy, everybody knew them was Michael Jordan's sons. What am I saying? When you have leaders, sometimes we miss out, and Nick hit it perfectly. We miss out on the things we have on the inside, the assets we have on the inside, because we treat inside people like liabilities instead of treating them like assets. And we treat people outside of us like they're the assets, and we end up looking at being the liability. And so, Sheknita, this is where I throw this at you. Knowing how it can be almost like strangling. Can y'all hear me good? Knowing how it can be almost like, okay, like pulling teeth to get people to understand the reason for the chaos. How do we get people set strategies to keep people involved so they don't get lost in the chaos, but to stay civically involved so that when we throw it to Fenika, she can help them understand why there needs to be a strategy when it comes to policy or attacking the policy. So, Sheknita, help us understand that, please.
I think bouncing off of some of what Pastor Craig and Pastor Dominique has said already is that, and this is Sheknita's analysis of it using my own personal testimony of how I became civically engaged and connecting it with my faith. So
strap on your seatbelt.
And connecting it with my faith. So two things is, number one, the restoring cultural identity. I think as a people, as African American people, we don't know our history enough to connect to why voting is important, why the census is important, why is it important to know what's going on with the school board. Touched on that just a little bit last episode, so we have to go back and watch that. However, understanding where I am and coming and connecting to me on my level has to start with what's been said with the trusted voices. And most of the time that trusted voice, if it's somebody within the family, or I'm going to connect it to my faith of where my historical context was and the role of the African American church in our civic engagement and our understanding of how important it was that voice came from within the church house. And so when I think about how those individuals of what you just said, Pastor Johnson, about sheep empowering sheep, when we empower those sheep with the right information, that they'll be able to spread it and hold each other accountable. But if I don't know how many people are in my congregation that is registered to vote, how many people understand the difference between charity and justice and how that connects to my vote, what's the importance of it, what's at stake in my vote. We're not talking about Democrat, Republican. We're talking about Lamb agenda right now of ensuring that everybody has what they need to be successful for where they are right now in life. That's what we're talking about, equity issues. And so if I don't understand, let me do it this way. Sometimes we say this: I already have a clothing bank. We already do the food bank. We already do that. So and guess what? None of our oppressors is going to be upset for us having a food bank, a food drive, a clothing bank. Nobody's going to be upset. The problem comes in when we start asking questions like, why is there a need for a food bank in the first beginning? Why do we have to have these things? And we move from those, what I call fruit issues, and we're trying to get down to the root of why this is taking place. The more information that we're able to pass to individuals about, let's talk about this difference right here. Let's talk about the justice portion of it, and what does that look like? Going back to what Pastor Dominique said about the what is my what in here? And sometimes it's going back to the simple basics of, this is how you get registered to vote. This is why you vote. This is how it affects your benefits, sweetheart, of where you are right now. I want to break this down to you and not talk at you or shame you in a way, but I want to educate you and inform you so that I can encourage this communal feel of what we need to be doing together. Because right now, of what Pastor Craig said, we have so much disunity. And young people, I believe, as well as older people who have been disengaged. I love Jesus. I come to church every Sunday. I pay my tithes. But that stuff is not church stuff. That's not church stuff. That's not stuff we're supposed to be getting involved in. That stuff that y'all just stirring up stuff, the same kind of things that was said during Dr. King days. But if we bring it back to our to what we got in our hand, which is this thing right here. This is not what this word right here is saying. And if we connect it that way and strengthen from the inside out and build these leaders, I believe with my whole heart and soul that our next generation of political leaders, our next generation of governmental leaders, they sit in our churches. And if we don't do what we're supposed to do to equip them, to prepare them, to engage them, then that blood on our hands. We end up in a Trump-like situation. Did I say? We end up in a situation the way that we are right now, with a lack of leadership from a local level all the way up to a federal level in the ways that we are, because you won't come where I am. Well, you won't come where I am. Meet Rahab where she is. Okay, I don't need you to talk about what's going on in my house, who left here. What I need you to do is understand that I'm going to make a difference. Don't come to the well with your preconceived ideas and your preconceived notions. I'm here to get some water. Do you have the water that's going to change my life forever? Or do you have an understanding, or you want to know where my husband is? Or how are you engaging me? Are you trying to be my next not husband? I'm just throwing that out there as well. I'm just saying, we have all things that happen within our trusted organizations in which you should be equipping and empowering me but you trying to get me to see, can you drive me to the Waffle House later? No, I don't want to go to the Waffle House later. After the church, Deacon.
After church.
No, I don't want to go. So
for the all-star breakfast
to get us to the place where you can no. No, but check this out now. Depending on where I am, and I said this before. If I had been the broken girl that I was in middle school with both of my parents strung out on drugs, if R. Kelly had rolled up, I'd been at the palace with him right now trying to defend him. Let's just talk and be real, because he was going to offer me a way of escape. And so right now, when you have these trusted voices that should be taking me and helping me to understand what's happening at the poll, what's happening at the Board of Education, what's happening at the Water Authority, what's happening at the Housing Authority, that's showing me all of these things. You trying to show me what's happening at the Six place, Motel 6, or you trying and you taking advantage of my vulnerability when you should be a person in authority and a trusted voice, and it repeats these cycles. So in order for us to be able to move forward, for us to be able to empower people to get to the place where Fenika can come in and explain to you how this law is getting ready to be implemented, this is going to be the changes of it. I don't know nothing about what she's saying. Everything is going to be so over my head because I don't have the foundational basis. So we got to take the time to do those two things. Strategy, restoring cultural identity. We got to be able to equip and teach our people about who we are, where we come from, get in some good trouble, as John Lewis said. We got to be able to equip and tell them about that. Then the second thing is teach people how they faith connect to politics and justice. It connects. They not separate. They go together. They work together, along with stop abusing stuff that you shouldn't be abusing, trying to take advantage of Rahab and the woman at the well, and throw some people in prison and different things like that. So I'm gonna pause right there. I got some other things that we wrote down, but I know my sister got it.
I got that Applebee ready for you.
Hold on.
I got this Applebee ready.
See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? But we got to start telling the truth, though, about what happened with our leadership. And God forbid you reject somebody that's in a trusted position, because now what they're going to do is tell lies on you all around town and all of this other stuff. I'm gonna come out of there.
Here's the word. Let me give y'all the political word she's really saying. Accountability. It's accountability. Because we have too many people who want to approach problems with a sugar daddy mentality. I said it. See, Sheknita, what you done got started? You come like a sugar daddy, a pimp. Like, I can buy, watch this. You try to buy me, but don't want to engage in my problem. Because you think buying me silences me from talking about my problem, when actually trying to buy me increases my suffering. See, since we knew you was gonna go by, and all of us some was gonna go by.
But look, you can implement your sugar daddy mentality when I don't have a cultural identity of who I am. I'm so used to people using me and taking advantage of me, because some of these things, some of these thoughts and mentalities are passed down through our genetics. We don't even get into the imagenetics of slave, post-traumatic slave trauma, and the cognitive dissonance. That's a whole nother conversation that causes us to disconnect from where we are, because I'm so used to that.
We're going there after Fenika talking about that slave, the mentality of almost like a slave master, and relationship with that and enslaving this thing. Because here's what we have to understand. And Fenika, I'm throwing it to you. It's easy to entice me when I'm uneducated. it's easy to reel me in when I don't know anything. So you can come tell me anything and I'll buy it. But going back to Sheknita, what Jesus did for the woman at the well, he didn't tell her about anything she didn't know. She already came with baggage. He just used what she was carrying to see if she was going to be honest about it. Because never mind, I'll go to that later. Fenika, help us right here, because where there's policy issues, policy problems, really, the problem is no policy. We really don't understand policy.
Well, yeah,
Go
we
ahead.
don't. A lot of us don't understand policy. We shy away from politics and policy and decision making in those areas because it can be overwhelming, right? We typically don't run for office. We're especially Black women are very underrepresented in leadership and decision making positions. Getting back really quickly to the education piece, and especially to just kind of piggyback off of Sheknita's point, not just pimps, right? Not just uneducated, but being miseducated from the place where our people gather most frequently, right? In churches, who are coming to be restored and to be filled with their spirit, right? And we have leaders who intentionally miss or undereducate them about their own spiritual power where they can be delivered and then really truly walk into their purpose to affect change inside their communities, in their households, and in their own lives, right? So it's a whole circle, right? If I got to go to church just to hoop and holler, but I can't get the education that I need to really affect change in my life, right? And then I got to come back to you the next Sunday to hoop and holler again to kind of get me through the next 6 days of struggle, health disparities, economic inequality, environmental injustice, racial issues that I face, right? Wealth gaps, all of those things. You really are pimping our people, right? You really are. And that's an injustice. We do an injustice to our communities, and particularly to our people, when we don't give them proper knowledge or education about the issues, and also from a holistic perspective. Everybody, all the panelists have had great points, knowing what you want, recognizing that the opportunity to act is right now. What are the priorities that we're looking for? What current policies that we want to change? Where do we need to focus? Building the strategic relationships, network engagement. Who are the decision makers? Doing the landscape analysis, not recreating the wheel, not recreating nonprofit after nonprofit after nonprofit, but join a board of a nonprofit that's already doing good work. Strengthen that existing organization and have a greater impact within the community already. Not being extractive, like we talked about before, going to people and asking them, what are your issues, right? Really hearing and being attentive. But we also have to really come to terms with the fact that a lot of us are afraid to engage with our own people in the hood and up under the trees, right?
Hey, everybody unmute right there and just say, show you right.
Show you right.
How do we expect them or our people to receive information, to have receptive hearts, to hold us accountable, to really believe that we are authentic when we come with knowledge, right? If we're afraid to engage them, if we want them to come to us, I think somebody else said, we want them to come to the church. We want them to come to our activities. We want people to come to our events. But it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people out here knocking on these doors, talking to people about, hey, Sheknita, What are your issues in the community? How can we help you build power? How can we connect you to other people within your close proximity, within your precinct, within your neighborhood, on your block, who care about these same issues, right? We got to stop being afraid to engage our people. When you got 37% poverty, you got 23,000 people who are not voting, who look like me and you, right? And that's not just indicative of Macon or Middle Georgia. We can run those numbers down within any county. 12,000 Black people in Houston County didn't vote in 2018, 20 plus thousand in Bibb County, 3,444 in Peach County, 20 something thousand in Savannah, right? We talked about these numbers before. So, and that brings me to the fourth point, which is gathering the facts, right? Researching. R&D, as they say in business, research and development. What does the data say, right? And then connecting those dots about the data, making it a personal issue, but also helping you to understand how that personal issue connects with somebody else's personal issue. Who's in a position to affect change, write policies or ordinances to make that thing change or better? And then how can we build, a coalition to attack that issue? And then being consistent in our communication, keeping it simple. We don't have to go to people and talk in paragraphs and dissertations, bullet points, bite-sized information, giving it to them like the man on the radio, talk radio. Put it where the goats can get it, right? So everybody can understand the issues. That's it. Policy is not hard. We just have to stop overthinking, inserting ourselves, being gatekeepers, because we want people to come to us because we want to have all the information, and putting it where our people can understand it. That's it. Connecting the dots from the rooter to the tutor and everything in between. From the time you are born, an elected official signs your birth certificate. When you die, an elected official signs your death certificate. When you turn on your electricity, an elected official sets your rates, right? All of those things. When you go buy paint, an elected official determines what kind of pollutants or how many pollutants can be in that paint that you put on the walls in your child's nursery. We have to break it down for people just like that.
That's good. Hey, meet me in the trap. It's going down.
See, here's so we got comments. Why is that political figures only show up when election time? Well, guess what? When this first time seeing this happen, people will always show up, always threatened by those who are informed. I'll say that again. It's not election. They're trying to do. That's what they gonna come.
Jay, you're breaking up a little bit.
Okay.
Hold on. Not talk.
All right.
Yeah.
What ends up happening is,
there you go. Wait. Okay.
What's happening is on during election that we are in prior to election time. So you can't add an elected official or somebody trying to come into your neighborhood, get your vote. That's what they're gonna do. The reality is, if you inform, you can hold them accountable by saying, why every time I see you? Where were you? Where were you during this time? Because uninformed people who are doing the electing is just as bad as uninformed those who are running in the election. You get what I'm saying?
May I say something to that point? About political figures just coming to neighborhoods, right? I think we have to, yes, there are some elected officials who are extractive, like they only come when they need you to vote for them. But there are other individuals who are community activists and leaders or people in your neighborhood who just choose to run because they want to make a change, right? And we have to understand, not only does it take money, foot soldiers, you have to typically get, for a small race, 15, 20,000 votes. That's a lot of doors to knock, a lot of phone calls to make, a lot of money to raise to reach those individuals. It's not that people want to just come to some of them, right? That's why we have to make sure that we're supporting authentic individuals, right? That we've seen engaged in work on the ground, that we've heard their voices before, that we know people who are really trying to affect change in our community and they're authentic. But we also have to understand what it takes to run for office and to get elected to office. Not only money, but work. Candidates doing church runs. We love church runs, right? But candidates also, most of them have their own church that they like to go to and hear their own pastor on Sunday. I can't just always come to your church every other day. But the elected officials really have to be engaged. Once you become elected to that position, making sure that you stay engaged, hosting town halls, meet and greets, informing communities what policies are happening, why you're voting this way or that way, and just showing up. And those individuals who choose to run for office, we want to measure them by that same rod. Where have you been? Have you been a voice for the community? So that people don't have such distrust with the system.
Yeah, hey, I think that goes back to like those things we were talking about that one time when I said when you evaluate leadership, you want to talk about the consciousness, your creativity, your courage, and those things. I think what this leading to is a point I want to kind of not shift us to, because Jay is doing that, but to think about is a strategy past the vote. What happens is we have strategy to get people to vote, but we also must see, as I read Black Labor, White Wealth, we've always talked about getting them to vote, but once we see that we've been voting, now what's next? And so we now got to have a strategy to get people to vote, but now what's the strategy after the vote? So even then, Fenika talked about last week, episode 300, Fenika talked about even a recall. You know what I'm saying? Like even so, but because what we need is a power block. We need political and economic power, right? And so when you start talking about that and moving and teaching from that aspect, that's the whole thing. What is the theological pro? I'll wait. One of us will answer that, I guess, Beverly, went out quick. But so my thing is that, like, the strategy to get people to the polls and all that, like Jay said, from protest to the poll. But we got to think about after, for us, we're in the runoff. So now what's our strategy after, regardless of who wins, the candidate we like or the candidate we didn't like? What's my strategy now of holding this joker accountable? What's my strategy now still moving my community forward, right? And so I think we got to kind of, we have to do that. And I think, man, we can all chime in on that. What's after the vote? I think, man, I don't want to say it like this, but I think you being a pastor and everybody on here being a preacher, I'm gonna go with Sheknita say Michael 6 and 8. It ain't what Sheknita said it. Act justly, do mercy, right, and walk with thy God. Okay, so you may not necessarily be a Christian, but we're gonna do this. We're gonna see if you acting justly. We're gonna see if you walking in mercy, and we're gonna hold you accountable. I'm gonna give you a little nugget, like one of the things that Sheknita always say about people. You have people running for stuff, and Fenika, you're like this, like you running for something. You hadn't even read the city charter, like what, you don't even know what you're running for. And so now how we hold them accountable, we gonna see what has what has Macon be a house in, I don't know what kind of Craig is in down in Baconton. What does the city charter say? Well, this community over here supposed to have this many green spaces. That's how we hold them accountable. Like at first knowing what you agree, what you said to. This is what King said. King said, I just want America to live up what they said they're gonna do. He said, at the end of the day, I just want you to live up. I just want you to live up to what you said. That we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, and they have a right to say, I just want you to live up what you put on the paper. I'm like King, just live up to what you. So that's what we do. This is what y'all say the charter say. Why ain't this in West Macon? Why ain't this over on Houston Avenue? We need to get this. We need to get this cranking and popping. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what it is. That's my percent on that.
Check this out.
Go ahead.
Hold on, Sheknita. You said something neat. I'm talking about green spaces. The question that needs to be asked that most people aren't going to ask, what is a green space? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because again, most of us don't know that. Because see, we can talk that language because we sat down and be like, oh, that's what that means. Oh, why is this? You know, if with where my church is located, why isn't there affordable housing in this area? You know, what is the reasoning behind this? Why? Those are questions that people need to ask. And if you have somebody that's in office who does not understand it, it's a sign, or it's not engaging. It's a sign you're uninformed, you're misinformed, you're not into it as much as you think you are. I don't live in Bibb County. I live in Peach. Craig, you're down in Doherty, right? In Doherty County.
And Mitchell.
Yeah, Mitchell. And Fenika got Houston County. She got relationships in Bibb, Peach, just like Sheknita, all of us do, right? We have people in our church who aren't in the same county, who don't live in the same city. So, like Sheknita implored us last week, has been imploring all this. That's a reason for a social justice ministry, so that you will be informed in knowing what are certain things that's going on in your community, in your city. What is the purpose? What is the purpose of the city council? What is the purpose of the county commissioner? Really, does the mayor have full power, or is he just the council has the power? You get what I'm saying? What style of government is your city? Because most people in your city ran by a city manager, and this has a celebrity mayor. What kind of government do you have? Because people need to understand this stuff. Because now I know who I need to address when it comes to the issues in my community, what matters. And so, Nick, you are so right. If we're going to engage them, and Nick, you said this a couple episodes ago, episode 209, we have to allow our theology, because I like what Belvin asked, our theology, and at the same time, how we think culturally, socially, there has to be a connection somewhere in there, so that if after the election is over, I'm still holding the one who won accountable. I'm not sitting there mad because the person I voted for didn't win. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, Craig. Then
let me just.
Sheknita, go. Craig and Sheknita.
So we have everything everybody has said is amazing tonight, and it revolves around two main components: education and the who, what, when, where, why, and how. Right? Everything from what Fenika said, Sheknita. We've got to educate, right? And I think that may be the very starting point for this plan we're talking about, is education. Because if I don't know, I can't go, I can't grow, I can't sow correctly. If I don't know, I'm disqualified from participating. Or somebody said it, miseducation is just as bad as little to no education, or it's just as bad as having education, but your morals are terrible, right? So maybe the plan starts with pooling resources or organizations. Maybe we do a checklist of organizations that are valid, that are active, that are effective, because they're 18 to 35-year-olds. If you talk to an 18 to 35-year-old, not talking about the exceptions or the exceptional, but millennials, if you ask them, the average millennial, are you a part of the NAACP? The average millennial will say, no. I almost said something. They'll say, no, what? That's for old people. They ain't doing nothing. And these are preconceived notions, right? They don't even have to be right. And don't even ask them what the Urban League is, again, right? And we're just, just the average millennial. I ain't even talking about my cousins, that live, in concrete jungles, who may not, and I can talk about my folks, they may not can spell NAACP, right? So we've got to educate, and then you've got to make the why matter. And so, whether it's putting a list together of these are the organizations that young professionals or people who care about the community, you need to be engaged, or we suggest, because you don't want to mandate, right? But it just rises and falls on education. A couple of things I wrote down, and then I'll turn over to Sheknita. The thing, 49% of our voting block is 18 to 35. And those millennials, that age group, the number one thing that millennial 18 to 35-year-olds care about the most is realness. Are you real? Authenticity. Don't say one thing and do another, because I've seen my grandmama, my granddaddy, older folk do it. Maybe they didn't know they were doing it. They didn't know better. They were going on fables and wise tales and urban legends. But this 18 to 35-year-old, they've been in school, whether they graduated or not. They've been educated to some degree beyond their predecessors. And so they can recognize real versus fake. Does it speak to my bottom line? So we're going to have to be real, and then we're going to have to answer the question, why? Why should I join the NAACP? Why do I need to vote? And what's the answer? We got to educate them, on why. And so I think that is the thing, the core team that Nick talked about, who are the talking heads, who are the strategists, who are the thinkers, all of that. But the thing that we've got, that we all can agree on, is there is a lack of education. So in my mind, there needs to be education, and there needs to be motivation to come to the education or receive the education when it's presented.
Right.
And so the plan for me, from what I'm hearing, is that we need a product to present. We need, what type of, because again, go back to your original question. I'm trying to shut it down. Y'all know I got about 3 good closes. But go back to the original, the very first thing that started tonight's episode was distractions. And just tonight, out of sheer passion, out of sheer concern, each and every one of us have gone in, and I'm going to use a colloquial term, have gone in 50-11 directions, right? Just out of sheer passion, from voting to holding elected officials accountable to the plight of the Black community. But then, we're educated enough to know that what's going on in other communities will affect our community, right? The spiritual side of it. So now here we are grasping at viable issues. So what we've got to do is decide what's to come from this movement. Right. What is it that God allowed? And oh, Lord have mercy. Why did God call a Dominique Johnson, a Sheknita Davis, a Fenika Miller, give the vision to Jay Louder, pull in Paul Little, right? Why did God call us together for this time? Because this didn't happen by accident. So the question is, what do we, right, And we've almost got the whole state covered, but we cannot afford to weaken the consistency of the movement by realizing there are so many issues. But I think the question is, what are we called to do? What are we called to start? Because it's going to be bigger than us, right? The vision,
Right.
the movement. I mean, it's already out there, but what are we called to tackle? And I think,
Yeah.
and I'm not trying to be the host, but I think if we talk from that point, what is it? Because it's not stagnated. It's not stagnant. It's not divided. It's not you do your thing in Macon, I do my thing in Albany, right?
It's
So
centralized.
there's got to be a thing that we can speak to, that's tangible, that we can educate Pookie, Ray, Jonathan, Mary, Melissa, Betty, and Susan, and Willie Mae, that we can educate them on, and we can measure growth, we can measure impact, and we can say, okay, this is where we're going. So I think that's, and I'm done now. That's the question. Why are we on this panel?
Yeah,
Not just to talk.
I think
Tag,
that was
Shanita.
hey,
Tag,
I take
Shanita.
it. I take it. Hit me.
I
I
love
think
it.
that was I think that was a good lead way, and I think some of it, Pastor Craig, I'm gonna hit just a smidgen of it. It'll be a meeting after the meeting. You know, we have one of those, a meeting after the meeting, to give a good concrete. But I think right now, this is for such a time as this moment of what you're saying, because right now we're in the middle of a pandemic. People are in their homes. You're not, because if the racial injustice that took place had been at another time where people were busy, we was at the football game, we was at this, we were watching, we wouldn't have the impact that we have right now. So I think it's a moment that we're able to capitalize, and there are a couple of tools that we can use and utilize the same way that all of us are spread out right now across this region right now, and able to utilize this platform. There are some tools and ways in which we can have multiple levels of educational platforms to get this information to people. I think we need to have a strategy for reaching pastors. I'm going to highly recommend this right here. To serve
That's a good book.
age.
That's a
Social
good
justice
book.
ministries in Black churches. This goes from what my sister said, from the rooter to the tutor. It starts out with what's the difference between justice and charity, all the way back in the back of how do you write a letter to your local elected official, a manual. This is a starting point for every congregation to serve this present age, and it's written social justice ministry in Black churches, because we need to have that conversation and understand the strength and the power that we have. And then, because I like practical tools, I like practical things that you can do tomorrow. You get this book tomorrow and start somewhere while we have a meeting after the meeting to come to a more concrete thing of what God doing. And then the National African American Clergy Network and the Skinner Institute. I love Barbara Skinner. Oh goodness, I love
Yes.
Barbara Skinner. Has a toolkit that's called Turnout Sunday. You can go there and download the toolkit for Turnout Sunday. Now, I like what you said, Pastor Dominique said it, as we said, it's the 2020 election and beyond. This is not a toolkit for November. This is a toolkit for congregations and organizations of faith to be able to use and have strategy beyond November, whatever the date is, beyond November. What do we do after that? What is our plan to keep going forward? So again, that's Turnout Sunday. You can go to turnoutsunday.com and download the full toolkit. This is just the short version that kind of gives you the 2-page with your talking points, what's at stake, criminal justice reform, how do you protect your vote. The Skinner Institute, see, some of it we don't have to recreate the wheel. We can use what has been already, of what my sister said, R&D. It's already been R&D. We gonna use the data that's already been R&D for us. And then, like I said, so to serve this present age, the social justice ministry in Black churches, and then I think having various levels of being able to engage people. I think we need to have a conversation with those leaders or faith-based leaders that want to have the conversation. And ain't no sense in chasing behind folks that ain't ready to be caught. There's no sense in doing that. I say this all the time, is that I'm not trying to convert a racist. I don't have time to be trying to convert a racist. Now, we can get those people that's in the middle that didn't know they had racist ideologies, but a racist is going to be a racist.
It's going to be
we wasting time and energy. So right now, and to capitalize on this moment, for those ready to help their congregation go to another place. I went to an interfaith that was at Ebenezer in Atlanta on ending mass incarceration. Like, it wasn't a Christian thing. You had Imam there, you had the Jewish, we had a target, which was ending mass incarceration. It wasn't about, are you going to accept Christ? Am I going to join the mass? It was about humanity. It was about this is an inhumane thing that is taking place. You had the gentleman that was involved in the Central Park thing, because I hate giving titles and labels to people. They're not the Central Park Five. They have a name. They are Black men that went through this horrible thing that our current administration had something to do with as well. So it's about being able to have these multiple levels of educational platforms that we can engage digitally right now. And a lot of things of Nona Jones, who is the faith-based initiative director at Facebook, has said that we're not utilizing. We are not taking advantage of the learning community groups that are in faith. We not taking full advantage of the tools and the resources that are right here, of what Pastor Dominique said earlier. What's in our hand? What's in our hand? God knew this problem was going to be here before we long arrived. And this is not because we don't have an answer or a solution. It's because the answer and the solution is in us, in order to be able to come and do what needs to be done. It's to awaken some stuff that's in the inside of other individuals that, like what Fenika said earlier, scared. Like, I'm scared to engage in this. I don't think I could do it. I'm not gonna have the support, or whatever the case may be. This is the time where we can capitalize on the hour and the moment where we are, equip people from the head all the way down to the sheep, all the way down. It's an opportunity. And then from there, that they can build, empower them to empower others, not just us. But this is a way for us to be able to engage, interact, move forward with the momentum that we have right now, because this is a momentum time. This is not, this is a serious momentum time for us to seriously take and actually put in place the things that has already been created, already been done by those that have already created the path, chopped the trees for us, laid the lumber over to the side. They just waiting for us to build a table. We keep saying, Lord, I need a table. Lord, I need a table.
Build it.
I gave you trees. Make a table. I
Yes.
gave you trees.
Yes.
So stop asking me for a table when I made trees. That part is where we're going to take these logs over here, and we're going to build what needs to be done right now to make $1 a difference, an impact, all of what you said. Real change. Okay, I'm out.
Sheknita, watch this. Ladies and gentlemen, hold on. Before I make my statement, y'all welcome Pastor Paul Little to my brother is here. And I'm so glad he came in when he did. But watch this.
Look at Dominique. Dominique.
He just left out.
Dominique, it's a pleasure for you to have me on the show, Dominique. It's a pleasure for y'all to meet me. Man. I told Pastor Jay I had a leadership call. I just finished working with a church in Madison, Wisconsin. And so thank y'all. I just want to peep in. I don't want to say nothing. I just want to listen.
Listen, hold on. He's proof. When you serve locally, you can get known nationally. Y'all hear what I'm saying?
Jay,
watch this. Huh?
Real quick, to piggyback off of what Sheknita was saying, almost to intersect the education of and the plan, could it be so that we're not reinventing the wheel, that our approach is to promote or champion that every church should have a social justice ministry? Should it be that because as Sheknita was talking, it was like a light bulb came on. You know, I tossed her the pitch, and then she swung and hit it. And I'm thinking, if we have connection, and then look at Paul come in and say, I just got off a call with the church clear across the country, right? And all of us have our various connections. So what if the intersection of political and spiritual engagement involvement, maybe that's the avenue we start at, is we're proponents that the church that's not already, because I can think of thousands, literally thousands of churches, right, who are not there yet.
Yeah.
Who are not there. And there are some who would think it was heresy that the church shouldn't even do it. The church shouldn't even be involved.
Yeah.
So if you already have a gathering of people, a congregation of people, plus you've got those churches that are in conventions and associations and so on and so forth, you know, then maybe that's one of our main avenues, is that we promote a social justice, and then we teach, train, educate, you know, whatever, so that at least we've got a concentrated effort going out in mass.
And I think what we do, I agree with that. I think what we do is if we say that part of it, like my thing is always going to be leadership development, but we definitely got like two people here who are skilled with that, with Sheknita and Fenika, right? And then what happens is that I believe we have to model what we're also preaching and teaching.
Yeah.
Here's what I mean by that. Here's what I mean, and people who know me know my heart, so I'm pausing for a minute before I say that. That means if you contract them out, that means put something in their pocket too. You see what I'm saying? So hear me. I know freely we receive, but he also say, we need to honor each other for time, for education, for doing the research, for operating in excellence, for doing that type of stuff. See, if we're gonna talk about group economics, we're gonna have to live by group economics. And the words say they have all things in common. Now somebody hit us up after this, and I let them do that, right? I'm not even talking about me. This ain't even for me. I believe even whatever we are. Like the day we doing it, because it's Jay, we friend, but I think that's where honor starts and it spreads out. You see what I'm saying? Can I say this? And I'm listening and learning. As we talk about catching momentum, Craig, Fenika, Sheknita, we all talked about it. Jay, you talked about momentum. So Paul, we were talking about that. So one of the things, when you catch momentum, let me use a quick story. My dad used to come to my basketball games, right? And when he came to my basketball games, he sat about midway of the court. And I could hear my dad most of the game, this and that. But you know what? When I got home, I didn't realize it. Now, my dad would like critique my game, right? But here's what I understood. He did it out of love. Now, Dominique, why are you saying that? Because as we get ready to do this movement, there's going to be some organizations that don't need to be critiqued, and their leadership will need to be critiqued.
Right.
But it's not to knock you the person. We talking about the bigger goal, representation for our people. I didn't realize it. Now my daddy, and so somebody, I don't know. Come on, Paul, I can't believe it. Anyway, so you
should have known it was gonna be him.
Yeah. So, but my whole thing, y'all understand what I'm saying? He said and said, hey, this, and so we got to look at some of these organizations and be real about, is the leadership effective? See, you gotta keep the ball moving. That's the point I'm getting to. So my dad was sitting there. But here's what I understood. He did it because he loved me. He wanted the best out of me. So the moral of the story is, boo, we homeboy, whoever, we're not critiquing you to hurt you. This organization is too important and too powerful for you to be in not represented well.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? I have to do that. None of us can do anything publicly and not be critiqued. I'm pretty sure I get critiqued every Wednesday and every Sunday. That's just the nature of it. So if you want to be called to lead, hey, if you need to go to classes, reach out. I need some classes. Be humble about it. So that's all. I just want to say that because we were talking about. So we're gonna have to have. Let me say this. Another point. We're gonna have to have tough conversations. Hey, you could have done it better. We're gonna, and I'm not talking about maiming you or crushing you and talking about. I'm saying, hey, this is some stuff you need to work on. You know what I'm saying? You got a whole lot of pathos, but you ain't got no logos. You got a whole lot of passion, but you don't make no sense.
It's like
your ethics is all over the place, like Craig said. You know what? You sound good, you love the people, but you can't keep your thing in your pants. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sorry.
No.
My bad.
Listen. It's true because most of the time we mess up not because of our gift, we mess up because of our character.
Yeah.
We mess up because of our character. It's like, okay, Paul's favorite preacher, Jamal Bryant.
Hey man, chill out, bro. Don't do that. Don't do that tonight.
This joke was good. He said something years ago, on a panel, and I'll never forget it. He was talking to Archbishop Ellis, and he said Archbishop Ellis was giving reasons, the state of the black church, all this kind of stuff, and Jamal Bryant said, Archbishop, you know more about Greek mythology than any of us. And he started talking about the Trojan horse. And so he made the statement, Archbishop, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're just trying to put some spinners on it to make it more attractive. Well, here's the thing. You can't reinvent something until you first look at the history of how it went from a wheel of rocks to being wheels made from rubber.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? See, a lot of times what we do is, as Sheknita, you hit it earlier, we have this caveman mentality when it comes to how we address stuff, that we got to remind people we aren't in a cave, but I still need to be able to speak the cave language to people, even though I'm at the penthouse. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like in a movement, and Paul, here's where I'm about to go to you with the economic development, the strategy of that. Because what we do is, and Nick said this, I think, episode 101, you can't put certain people in front of an audience because they will cause the overall picture of the group or movement to be diminished. It's like, I can't put, if Pookie may have fire and passion, but if he does not have the ability to communicate effectively to an audience, I don't need to have Pookie talking to a group of business people about how to help my movement.
Yeah.
No, let me give you some classes. Let me give you some noun verb education here. Let me help you put some things together, so that you don't mess up something. Because here's the thing. Eric Thomas said it this way. I can be standing in a room of people wearing suits, but if I can articulate, they won't mind me being in a t-shirt and jeans.
Yeah. Yeah.
And see, the reality is, most people, their issue is not just the movement, it's who's talking.
Wow.
It's not the movement, it's who you got talking, because they will always attack the talker, trying to drain the momentum of the movement.
Yeah.
The face. It's like this right here. You may be the face, but you ain't the engine.
Mm-hmm.
Authenticity.
But if the face is not clean, it suggests that the engine is dirty.
My.
And so from an economic standpoint, we have to, Paul, have some kind of strategy that could push the narrative so that, like Craig said, what is our overall aim for this? What is the overall aim that we help leaders, like Dominique said?
Yeah.
That we, how Sheknita has instilled in us over the last 3 episodes. Don't forget about the less fortunate, the forgotten. How do we put money into educating, having forums in churches to educate social justice ministry? Because here's the thing. The overall aim of this, number one, is that every church who hears us, and I'm willing to do this, Paul, start in Middle Georgia. I'm making sure every pastor, especially Black pastor, and the church that's led by a Black pastor, has a social justice ministry.
Yes.
And then also to help look at funding it. Because guess what? Most churches don't provide budget for social justice ministry.
Mm-mm.
Just like they don't provide budget. Never mind.
What's a budget?
Stop praying. Stop. So that's like saying blasphemy, Craig.
Yeah, man. Budget. He just said the B word. So Acts chapter 2.
You just preach and teach.
See, that means you got to do some restructuring in your ministry. Give me a call. I would love to do some leadership stuff for those who have that concern, by the way.
He's coming virtually, Mount Zion, again.
Yeah, I'll be glad to. I'm almost 40, so you have to be conscious of what you do well and what you don't do well. And what I do well is leadership, administrate, and raise money. Those are 3 things that I know how to do. So
yes,
so let me say this. Acts chapter 2, I think Dominique referenced it, but I'm going to go back in Acts chapter 2 when they all came together. They were on one accord in one place, 120 people in the upper room. And when the Holy Spirit came upon the first century church, one of the things we know is that the Bible says that they were all able to hear one another in their own language. The word here, they were able to akoo. So we get the Greek word, that's where we get the word acoustics from. They were able to hear in their own language, right? So think about it like this. When they go to this structure of being able to meet needs in the church, here's what the Bible says. Now, it's 3,120 people at this point. So listen to what it says. Dominique mentioned it a few minutes ago. Say it again.
3,000 men that we know.
Right. Not even considering that it may be women and children. Right. But we do know that when Peter preached his message, which was only about, if you read it, it's only like 15, 20 seconds. That's a whole nother meeting. But watch this. 3,000 people were added one day. So you got the 120, 3,120. Here's what the Bible says. 3,120 people are in this church. They had all things in common. Here's the next line. And nobody lacked anything. So how is it? Right. So think about it. Now, you can look at churches throughout Macon and Middle Georgia, and you can look at churches that have 300 people, and there's a lot of lack. Yeah. But you can look at the first century church that has 3,120, and that was no lack. Their economic structure is what we would call group economics, but it was really kingdom economics. What they did was the Bible talks about how they sold their land. Now, see, it's hard for us to get to, and I'm not suggesting we do this because, people ain't gonna trust people. I ain't doing that because I got this amount, and so I'm not suggesting we're gonna do this. But here's the theology behind it that I think we should adopt. The theology is that when it comes to kingdom economics, we get more done when we pool resources together and position our churches for impact. So listen, Jay, they heard in different languages. Economics is a language.
That's right.
And sometimes the government, sometimes politicians, sometimes community organizations, they don't hear us. You know why? Because we don't speak a language of economics. We only speak a language called ecclesia. That's church language. We know hallelujah, praise the Lord, thank you, Jesus. But when we get to the table, we start talking about grants, profit and loss, You know what I mean? Budgeting, it's a foreign concept. So how do we position ourselves? Now I'm getting a little bit on my word of faith stuff, but how do we position ourselves to receive the wealth of the wicked that's laid up for the righteous if we don't have any businesses in place? We don't have any structure in place. We can barely count money, but we're expecting this supernatural transfer. What are they gonna transfer it to? Your piggy bank under your mattress?
Yep.
So we having all of these things about wealth creation, which is a passion for mine, because I believe that the way we target and attack poverty is through wealth creation, and we have to train people through kingdom economics of how to be dependent on God and self, and not look for a handout. Even though we know that there's some things that are owed to us, let's be honest, there's some things that's owed to us by way of reparations. I'm a proponent of that. But there's also an opportunity for us to get businesses and entrepreneurial ideas started so that we can have systems in place where that transfer can take place. So let me also add this. There is $140 billion with a B that the government spends every year on research and development. 140 billion with a B on that's just people that's researching and developing. Now watch this. Most of this money goes to the same groups of people, and it goes to the same schools like Stanford, Harvard, Princeton, right? All of these different companies. But what would happen if our HBCUs were given opportunities to be able to be at this table or to build this table in Shenita's language and say, guess what? We can do research and development, and guess what? And offer a greater level of research and development. I mean, let's be honest. Who can research and develop like Black people?
Right.
Can I get two amens? Right? You know.
Amen. Amen.
Right. So the best way, if you want to make America great, is you go back to the people who made America in the first place.
Reverend.
You know who that is, don't you? Those are our people.
Yes, sir.
So I think the economics of it is very important. And again, as far as strategy, here's how we do it very quickly. The way we do it by way of strategy is we position our churches for opportunities beyond tithes and offerings, beyond chicken dinners, beyond fish fries, right? We got to start talking about grants. We got to start talking about entrepreneurial ideas. How do we know that the first century church was entrepreneurial? Because several people sold their property and brought it to the church. Now, listen, when you get to 5, one thing we know is that God took this idea of kingdom group economics so seriously that the people who committed to bringing their resources to the table and didn't, in the Bible readers, Ananias and Sapphira, I'm going to kill y'all. I'm going to kill y'all on the spot. What is this about? Because you lied to the Holy Spirit as it relates to the money. Where your treasure is, that's where your heart. Listen, where your treasure is, that's where your heart is. So the people who don't want to talk about money, they're being naive to think that money is secular. And money is a tool to get things done. And that's why I talk about it and focus about it so much, because I know that we can get more done when we have more money. Biggie said more money, more problems, but I believe more money, more opportunities too.
Hey, Paul, so we got to teach people how to deal with the power in the paper.
The power and the paper. Listen, it is not that we don't have money. We have trillions with a T of dollars in African American spending. So don't give me, and no slight on anybody. We're gonna black out. We're gonna support Black businesses on Tuesday. What about Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday? It ain't a moment, it's a movement. We do this every day. Everybody we do business with. And listen, no one can keep using this argument talking about, well, we're gonna do business with Black folk. We got to get our customer service right. Y'all put up with stuff from a whole lot of people who will call you a nigga and you'll still go back to that place. Don't give me that. Listen, we get extra critical on our people because we have self-hate. And we want to be able to say another Black person let us down because we don't love ourselves. And so we want to be able to critique, but you'll let white people, you go to McDonald's and those fries are cold, the machine don't ever work, the ice cream machine don't ever work. So don't act like all Black people are ratchet in their business ethics. You know,
it ain't me tonight. It ain't me tonight.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the reason why I act like that, because it's in the pulpit. It's in the pulpit.
But listen, y'all. But in that, Jay, let me. Isn't it real? Think about it. Think about all the situations and circumstances. Look how people talk about, man, Cox Cable high. Cox Cable high. Your hind part still got Cox Cable,
right?
Thank you for saying hind parts. Thank you for saying hind part, sir. Thank you for saying hind part.
Only reason I didn't say that because I'm trying to be good. Listen, Paul, check this out. And I need everybody to feel. There's two things. One.
Hey, Paul, I do want good customer service though, but I got you.
No, but listen now, listen. I'm not. I don't want anybody to think. But Jay, let me say this. Jay, let me say this. I don't want anybody to think I'm saying that we should have substandard service. That's not what I'm saying at all. Okay. But here's what I'm saying. Let's be patient with our brothers and sisters. But here's the other thing, though, Dominique. Here's what we do. Here's what we do. You'll tell Facebook, but you won't tell the person in that business, though.
Come on now. I just want to throw the alley back to you because I know somebody with the left field. You my brother. So I know somebody with the left field talking about.
Oh, yeah. No, I got you.
Yeah.
Paul say support anybody. That ain't what I'm saying. We want good customer service. But you'll tell Facebook and Instagram, but you won't go back to that. See, that's how I know it wasn't about the customer service. It was about you critiquing somebody to destroy them. Because if you really wanted good customer service, you would have said, hey, Roscoe, hey, Mike, next time when y'all do my yard, make sure you don't cut my trims. But you'll get on Facebook and say, y'all don't ever do right. That ain't the way to do it.
Yeah. Tough conversations.
Tough conversations, man.
Yeah, we give each other an opportunity to correct the issues within our community.
It is.
Give them
Come on now. Woo, but y'all don't start it too late. Go ahead, Jay.
Hold on. What we do is something I said earlier, and I'm gonna flip it from how it was said a while ago in a couple episodes. We antagonize, but we won't strategize.
Right.
We antagonize people for customer service. Watch this, Paul. We will dog McDonald's, but then if Chick-fil-A do the same thing, we won't dog them publicly.
Right.
But
because Chick-fil-A is that's like heaven. They don't ever do nothing wrong. Like what?
Yeah. But then when watch this. When I see people, and this is crazy, when I see people who will put on Facebook, on Twitter, I went to Chick-fil-A and I'm surprised they messed up my order. Sometimes what you fail to understand is every business does not have a quality control department.
Right. Yeah.
And see, what we've got to learn to teach our people is that just as getting the paper is important, quality is just as important.
Absolutely.
But then too, the other side is we've got to learn to be patient with people, especially if we're not going to take the time to invest in them ourselves. Right. Because we want to critique something that somebody had the faith to jump out and do, but you got the same ability, but you won't go do it yourself. So you think by criticizing me, that's going to stop my business. Sometimes the best thing you can do for a business is give them free advertising.
Yeah. And listen, and literally love people enough to be able to say, hey man, when I ordered the greens were a little cold. You know, can I get that fixed? Just like that. Just like when you go to Applebee's or listen, you don't went to all kind of places and it was wrong. What I'm saying is that we get extra critical of ourselves because let me just say this, and I don't mean this disrespectfully. It's this Candace Owens kind of thing that I'm gonna be contrary to everything that you say. It don't matter what you say. If I look up and see the sky and it's raining, and I'll say, man, there's a lot of rain. Candace Owens gonna say, it ain't raining, it's sun outside, because she's paid to do that. What it is that it's a self-hate that we have that causes us to be extra critical of our people. That's all I'm saying. I want great customer service. I want people to treat my stuff right too. But I'm gonna go to that brother and say, hey, Neat, man, next time when you do this, man, make sure you help me in this area. Do this a little bit better. I'm not gonna get on social media and blast you for that, because I don't do that at Applebee's. I don't do it at all these other places. Let me say this, that self-hate piece is so powerful. Watch this. Because I'm looking for reasons to shoot somebody else down because I've been taught that's the way I elevate myself.
Well, hold on, Paul. Hold on. I'm gonna go to something that you thought I forgot. Me and Paul about 4 years ago sat down and had the real reality of the crab mentality.
Right.
You remember we were sitting there just talking, we were going crazy. Yeah. And the crab mentality, most people always talk about somebody pulling them down.
Right.
But there's another side. There's another side.
Man. Right. The crabs are communal creatures. So you don't very rarely, if you, and I like National Geographics and all of that kind of stuff. When you look at crabs, they normally travel together. All right. Thank you, Miss Betty Anderson. Post-traumatic slave disorder. That's exactly right. That's a great book, by the way, too. When you think about the crab, it's been suggested by scientists that one of the reasons that the crab pulls another crab down is because crabs can't survive without one another. So we got, it ain't necessarily the crab mentality, it's the hate mentality. Like, I'm pulling you down because I feel like if I pull you down, I can elevate myself. Listen, we've always, that's been a part of us since slavery. The fact that some of us sold us out, right? In the beginning of slavery, am I right? 1619, am I right with my history? Right?
Yep.
Sold us out. Some of us sold us out. Right? And so I think we got to get over that. Yeah, it's that post-traumatic piece where we got to get out of being extra critical on our folks and not critique people with love and say, hey man, you got that wrong, but I'm gonna give you another chance. Now listen, if I come back and you keep getting it wrong, then guess what? All right, then I need to find somebody else to cut my grass, because obviously you don't want to do it. So I'm not saying just accept substandard, service. Let's be a little bit more patient and prayerful and encouraging to those who we know, especially who are just getting started, and not expect 5-star service right off the top. Can we get you to that point and help you to get to that point instead of being so negative and critical? That's all I'm saying.
And that is
Pastor John,
let
me add that to what Pastor Paul just said and what you all was saying. My sister Kimberly Carter said this. First of all, crabs in a barrel, that's not the natural habitat for a crab in the first beginning. That's the reason why it seems as if it's pulling it down. So when you think about that in the context of our community, we so used to seeing us fail that we contribute to the failing process because it's just not something that we are accustomed to seeing. So it's not in the natural habitat, which we need to flip that and be intentional. Okay, I came to the restaurant, I've said something about the service, but my intention is to find me another Black restaurant that I can go to. It's not that I don't, it ain't gonna be good everywhere. Okay, the macaroni and cheese over here, just I can't, I don't want to deal with that. That's not real cheese. I don't want to deal with that. So, but my intention is communal. I want to help build my community. I'm gonna have a conversation like that was cold, because I will send some food back, but not in that COVID time. I want a refund in COVID time. But it's the intentionality of doing it. It's the intentionality of building community.
And see, Sheknita, that is the whole this whole forum from the beginning. Since we started this, when the Lord just, dropped me in my lap, because Paul knows I can be, and Nick knows this too, I can be disobedient when it comes to following what the Lord says.
Amen. Amen.
I'm a work in progress. Here it is. And me and Craig talked about this a minute. If we aren't intentional with this thing, it's going to spark like a flame, but then instantly it's going to die out.
Yeah.
And for too long, and this is looping back right here, Fenika. If we're going to start the initiative through this of getting every church to formulate a social justice ministry, we've got to be intentional, first off, with why we are wanting you to have a social justice ministry.
That's right.
Because it'll be the Candace Owens thing illustration. It's raining outside, but then if it's not affecting where I am, the sun is shining.
Now see, now Reverend, now y'all, I'm late. I was late, so can I catch up? I want to say something else. Dominique being disrespectful. Look at Dominique. He being disrespectful.
I want to throw you this alley-oop so you can dunk real quick. It's a 2-ball. Because we don't need, and I need everybody to hear me when I say this. The ultimate goal of this initiative is to provide not just a platform, but to give you education, information, and strategy so that you implement not just in your church, but the Bible says a good father leaves an inheritance to his children.
Come on now.
And if a church that leaves nothing for the next generation to inherit is a dead church.
Yep.
And so we as a people have allowed a generation to appear like Eutychus in Acts chapter number 20, dead, because he failed.
Yep.
But it's going to take a Sheknita Davis. It's going to take a Dominique Johnson. It's going to take a Craig Moore. It's going to take a Fenika Miller. It's going to take a Jonathan Louder and a Paul Little to go down to say there's still life in them.
Yep.
Because again, I love the passion of this millennials and generation. But passion without direction is a train wreck ready to happen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So what we have to do here is, yes, we want all of it, and we are offering ourselves, because again, I don't have all the information. Paul doesn't, Neek doesn't, Craig doesn't, Fenika may not, Sheknita may not, but we do know those two know how to start it and give you direction. Our job may be to come in and provide, like Paul said, formulating the right teamwork and strategy. Yeah. Dominique comes and talk about leadership development. Craig comes in and he discusses about community involvement, how the pastor's role in the community. While Sheknita and Fenika are basically giving policy reform and civic engagement, and together we're providing information and education on economic development. Why? Because one person does not make everything function.
That's right.
It takes a multiplicity of people coming together with their strengths and not trying to be strong in the weakness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, come to me. I'm gonna be honest with you. Don't come to me talking about economic development, because I may cause you to get broke. and let me tell you why. Not that I don't know how to handle money, but what I'm telling you is, if anybody comes to me with a sob story and I got the money in my pocket, I'm not gonna be thinking about whether or not how to. I'm gonna be like, here you go, God bless you. Go ahead, take it. And what I don't know is I just enable that person's habit instead of doing what I should do. Not just feed them, but teach them how to catch fish.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to all. And so, Paul, here's the alley-oop right here. Once again, to avoid the misknowledgement, not acknowledgement, to avoid those who will miss out on saying, no, it's not raining, the sun's shining. No, I need you to admit that it's storming.
Yeah.
We got to educate you on that in every area, because this is where we're going to close out tonight. This is where we're going to close out tonight. We're going to close out tonight right here. Paul, I'm throwing it to you. Help us in this narrative of getting people to understand. I need you to admit there's a problem and to admit there are issues without trying to fix it before you know what's wrong.
Wow. Well, I'll say this. To be an African American person and not admit that there's an issue, and I know several people. I have this conversation all along. It ain't no systemic stuff. It all, that's what we call Black privilege, and that's more toxic than white privilege. Black privilege is this idea that because it's not affecting me, it's not real. So I've never been through a racist. I never had racism. I never had issues of injustice, and so it's not real because it hasn't happened to me. And that's absolutely, first of all, it's ignorant and it's arrogant, and that's a bad combination. One of the things that we have to do is help people to understand that we don't have to be so selfish that things have to happen to you in order for you to address them. If somebody comes on, and I'll use Sheknita for an example. Sheknita tells her story about things that she's experienced as a woman. If I have a heart of compassion like Jesus, I'm concerned about the things that's happened to her and may potentially happen to other women, not because I'm a woman and I can feel it, but because I am a human being with a heart. And more specifically, I'm a Christian with the mind of Christ and the Holy Spirit in me, which gives me a certain level of compassion towards people who may be hurting, even though that hurt hadn't reached me. That's a sign of true spirituality. That's a sign of a true righteous agenda. It doesn't have to always affect your house in order for you to get involved. And that's why I think where Black privilege is so toxic is because people feel like, well, ain't nobody ever called me the N-word. I ain't never been discriminated upon. So you're naive enough to think that just because it hadn't happened to you, it's not happening to anybody. And when you have people like that, I'm going to be honest. I'm beyond the point of arguing with people and trying to educate people about things they don't want to be educated upon. And so I pray for those individuals. I ask the Holy Spirit to come in and touch that person's heart, because there's some stuff that you can't listen. When a person is bent on being ignorant, you just got to let them be that. And so when people give this whole thing about, and I know we have a great ideal, every church ought to have a social justice ministry. Here's the reality. There's some pastors, when you say that to them, they're going to be like, what? Man, y'all just need to pray about it. Y'all need to fast and let the government handle the government. Render to Caesar what is Caesar. And that ain't what Jesus was saying, by the way. Render to God what is God. And they'll use scripture not only to spiritualize their ignorance, they'll use scripture to weaponize their beliefs.
Yeah.
And that's a danger.
And it ain't got to be scripture.
Right. It don't even have to be scripture. It can just be old folk, old mindsets. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, it's that whole plantation piece that I think.
Yeah, that Kingdom Life, we got a hashtag for that.
What is it?
Hashtag TTF.
TTF?
Yeah, that's that foolishness.
Hey, man. Hey, but that's true.
I'm serious, bro. Like that foolishness. Like some stuff is just that foolishness, man. Like
that foolishness right there.
I mean, that's what I know. I had to add a little something because I know we getting late now. But at the end of the day, it's like, bro, just catch me later. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we gotta do our rounds up. I'll be quiet and let everybody do their round up, and I do mine when I'm called on.
Here we go. Listen, people. This is what we're gonna do. I blame my brother, Dr. Belvin Ware, for this. We've had 4 episodes. This is episode number 4. This is episode number 4. And each time, if you all notice, it has gotten better and better. The information we're providing, trying to, along with, never mind, I know what everybody laughing at because I seen, yeah, that's that foolish.
We're trying to see where you're going. We're trying to see where you're going, great leader.
This is what we're going to come back with because we talk. We want to be able to present the people again, like what Sheknita said, what we come up with the meeting after the meeting. Because the goal is, Paul, I want to say this, and the question has to be asked. Because again, you don't go into another man's house and tell them what they do. But I think the question has to be asked, even in the midst of this time, for those who don't have one.
Yeah.
You know, explain them if they don't have one, asking them why they don't have one.
Yeah, so you can ask why?
You're asking them why they don't have one, but then from there, that gives us basically the avenue to explain the reason behind why they need one.
Yeah.
Because again, we may face that resistance, Paul, that you say, let y'all leave it alone. Let's do this here. No, even Nehemiah, when he was on the wall, was working.
And he had to have some resources to build that wall too.
Yeah, he had to have resources.
Yeah, that's bread. We sent Fenika in to tell them why they need it. Fenika and Sheknita.
Can I offer some tactician strategies?
Go ahead, Sheknita.
Can I offer some tactician strategy, possibly here to the pilots in the room?
Right.
to the pilots.
She finna go.
And I alley-oop to my sister Fenika. idea may be to develop a platform for those that may want to sign up. One of those opportunities for them to register to be a part, and then in a more smaller, intimate group of those individuals that we can go take a deeper dive into, that maybe have put some skin in the game,
Right.
that they have a desire. It's that the concept that I was saying earlier, that there's no sense in trying to convince somebody that doesn't want to be convinced in this moment, because you don't want to lose the momentum. So we're going back to the civil rights movement when they said it was going to be a meeting at 10:30 at such and such church. Whoever showed up is who we were talking to, and you knew that you had the right crowd at that time. So we give an opportunity, create a platform where individuals may be able to sign up, put some skin in the game, and then go into a deeper dive and have those types of conversations of why you may not have it. But in the meantime, they can always go and get this book to serve this present age. Maybe they want to, test out the waters, or try to find out, because it's going to take you from the biblical perspective all the way into some type of implementation, and then create the opportunity for individuals to possibly sign up. Because what we don't want to be doing is casting our pearls before swine. We don't have that kind of juice right now. We're in a economic crisis, in a humanity crisis. We're in a health crisis, a school crisis. We looking at the text messages like they're going back to school after Labor Day. I know that did set some parents up a wall, like, my God, what? So you got all kinds of things. And right now you want to be strategic. I said it's to Pastor Dominique the other day, is that I'm putting up my shotgun. I have no more time for my shotgun. I'm in sniper mentality. I want to hit and kill. That's what I want to do. I want to have a target. I want to go toward the target, and I want to strike it and get to the next target, so that we can have some impact and some change, some transformation. So that would be from a tactic, and I let my sister jump in there, alley-oop.
There's nothing more to be said, because you took the words directly from my mouth. We need to be intentional about making sure that we have the people at the table who want to be at the table, and that we're also intentional about how we project or present information after that, and getting them to the next step about implementing their social justice ministry. Yeah. So you did that, sister.
Hey, Jay. Jay,
go ahead, Nick.
Real quick, I agree with that. Check this out, because I'm just an educator as well. Another source I want to give you, if people have questions about that, is The Politics of Jesus by Overy Hendricks Jr. Paul talks about this book a lot. So, The Politics of Jesus. And the subtitle is Rediscovering the True Revolution Nature of Jesus' Teachings and How They Have Been Corrupted. It's by a brother as well. So that's just part of
in the back of this book right here, it got that book as number 1, along with several other books that you can introduce your congregation into, or yourself, if you choose not to do it that way, because sometimes you got to start with yourself and grasp the concept of where you're going.
Go ahead, Craig, my bad.
Craig, and I want to mention a book too.
Hey, Jay.
Yo, wait.
Go ahead, Paul. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Craig. I'll wait. Go ahead.
I just have a question. I was just gonna say, so that we don't miss, because I love where we're going. I just know this thing has been baptized in the Holy Spirit, but so that we don't miss something, the other component that we've all talked about and we're all passionate about. I'm all for this social justice movement, offering this, having these conversations, and we're flowing through church, pastor, whatever direction we officially go in with that. The other thing that I kind of feel in my spirit is that maybe we could afford to also have maybe a two-head approach. because this is going to go directly right now, seems like, through churches, pastors, organizations that will listen, that are interested, right? The people that are left out of that particular conversation is the street.
Yeah.
So maybe we need to give some consideration to having that and maybe that goes to that platform that Sheknita talked about and those different level of conversations. But I think the heart of this is not just to educate church folks, right? But we've got, again, to use a colloquial term and quote a song, we got people down in the valley trying to get home.
Yeah.
Who are not going to step in the church, but
Great
they
point.
want to know how they can, have a seat at the table.
Yeah.
So I'll just introduce that, and that may be for the meeting after the meeting, but I wanted to say it in case there was some synergy or spark something in some of you. So,
No, you're right.
we're talking to those that are already engaged or in a pew on Sundays or whatever. But then there also needs to be something to educate those knuckleheads or brilliant men on the street corner who have gifts and talents, but they don't know how to use them. They don't know, they've not been invited, or maybe they don't believe they belong at the table. So maybe there's a two-pronged approach, and that still will keep us centered and focused without the viscosity of the movement becoming too thin or weak.
Right.
I'm done.
So here's the and I hope everybody can hear when I say this. I'm gonna take Sheknita's approach and Craig's approach, and then Paul, I want you to give. Paul, I'm gonna let you when you give the book, make your statement that the books you're gonna talk about. Paul, you're gonna pray us out, and then we're gonna have the meeting after the meeting real quick. Okay?
Sure.
All right, here we go. If there is any pastor, ministry worker, community, a person involved in community, organizer, no matter what, who desires to implement a social justice ministry, because to answer my brother Belvin Ware, civic engagement is a part of the social justice.
Yeah, I saw his question. I would say it's the result of having a social justice.
Yeah, it's a result of having. So have one of the results of having one. So if you desire that, if your pastor is not on here, you want to mention it to it, or you just want information to take back to your pastor, and so we can have, because since it's COVID-19, in the words of Sheknita, we're gonna take full advantage of Zoom, virtual. Just have kind of like a virtual Zoom private invitation, kind of just form to explain, the purpose of social justice ministry, and those are the reasons for having that. If you're interested in that, this is what I want you to do. For those of you who are watching us, you can message me, or if you have access to message any of our panelists, if they don't mind. And because the way that'll help us get feedback, because all of us have more,
I mind.
I know you mind.
I'm kidding.
You can message us on here.
Sure.
Or, and I think that'll be kind of the easier thing to do. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can email myself at pastorjlowder@gmail.com. That's PASTOR, the letter J, LOWDER @gmail.com. I'm not going to give you my phone number, so you can't hear my personal and private voicemail that Paul Little likes to talk about. Is anointed. So
spiritual.
No, I'm not going to do that. But just email us, either direct message any of us here on our social media, or that you're interested, or you can email me there again at that email address, pastorjlowder@gmail.com, because we want to do all we can so that we can take advantage of this, and also provide you the tools that's necessary. Because again, and those books that were listed there, like Sheknita said, get the book. that she was talking about. Again, the social justice. Say that again, Paul.
Serving the present age. Sheknita was trying to tell you.
Serving this present age. Justice in Black churches.
Pastor, what we can do is we can create a Google form to be able to capture that information. So it'll be in a way that you're able to send out and disseminate information all in one place. So it's very easy to create that. Very, very, very simple to send that, and we can post it on our webpage. Again, that's some tactician.
Core team, baby, core team. I never would have thought of that.
Very easy.
Thank you, Lord.
So, Paul, it's on you, sir.
Serving the present age that Sheknita mentioned. Politics of Jesus. There's some good ones. We can do some James Cone stuff. Probably, in my estimation, the best one I would recommend.
No doubt.
Hey, duh.
I know the author personally.
I do too.
Let me say this. Every book of the Bible is written under some form of governmental oppression. So when you hear the language of the scriptures, you cannot say that social justice is not a major theme, because if you study the Bible in its proper context, every book of the Bible is written under some form of oppression. And each author, each prophetic voice is sent as an answer to spiritual, social, and existential issues. You can't read the Old Testament, especially, and even when we get over into the New Testament, we see so much language about mercy and justice, and we see examples of how systems control people. Acts chapter 16, Paul and Silas unjustly being in jail. The book of Ephesians talking about how God has torn down the walls between Jews and Gentiles. That's about race. Galatians 3:28, there is no difference between Jew nor Greek, bond nor free, slave, male nor female. That's gender, class, and race all in one verse. Galatians 3:28. So listen, read the Bible in its proper context, and you see social justice and transformation as a major thing. In addition to those other books that was already that was mentioned, because those are some great ones as well that I've read.
Love it. Again, everybody, thank you for your time tonight. Who's watched us. Pastor Little PD, do us a favor. Pray us out tonight, and then so that we can let the people go in the words of Moses.
He said the words of Moses. Father, we thank you for what we've experienced. We pray for those who desire to have a social justice ministry and engagement at their church, that you give them the wisdom, that you give them the courage to step out. For those who do not see this as a consistent and a major part of the church, I pray that you'll convict their hearts by your spirit, that we will all have a heart of justice the way that you do. Bless each of the panelists. Thank you for Pastor Louder, his leadership, his heart for your people. Bless those who have viewed this experience and continue to give us the energy, the wisdom, and the resources to fight this battle for your glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you again, everybody, for watching us. Tuning in.
Hey, y'all see Belvin question?
Yeah,
Thank you for doing that too, Craig.
Hey, Belvin.
What Belvin say?
He's talking about next week. Hey, Belvin.
Be laughing so hard.
Belvin.
Hey,
keep watching the news.
Miss Betty Anderson saying too about what time. Miss Betty is talking about what time.
We gotta give an update on the meeting after.
We'll let y'all know the meeting after the meeting. God bless y'all.
After the meeting.
How do I go backstage? What do I do?
All I gotta do is end. Just hold on 1 second.
Well, y'all, man.
Hey,